All right, we are live.
Right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to How to Start and Grow a Holistic Health Business here with American College of Healthcare Sciences. We are so excited to have you here today. As we wait for folks to filter in, I would love to hear where everyone is tuning in from. So using the chat, if you could just introduce yourself and where you're coming from, that would be great. We've got Texas, Portland, Oregon. Definitely excited to see where everyone is from here today.
Oh, chat is disabled. Let me go ahead and fix that.
Oh, well.
I know. All right, we'll take care of that in just a moment. Thank you.
And if you're just now jumping into the webinar, I was just asking if you could just say hello in the chat and where you're tuning in from. Gina is working on fixing that chat box so everyone can post in there.
If everyone actually, let's see, I know the Q&A is open. We're fixing the chat just a moment. Feel free to use the Q&A at the moment for any questions until we get the chat fixed. Thank you so much.
Hello from Tennessee and California. We've had a lot of rain here in Portland, Oregon, so I'm definitely dreaming of California these days or anywhere warm. I'm going to give it a few minutes here.
I'm currently investigating that right now. Thank you so much for using the Q&A at the moment.
Yeah, so in addition to using the Q&A to let us all know where you're tuning in from, I would also love to know if you are wanting to open your own holistic business one day. So if you want to put a number 1 if you already own a holistic business, or a number 2 if you want to own a holistic business in the future, or a number 3 if you are unsure at the moment. I'd love to kind of get a pulse on our audience and what your goals are.
Looks like quite a few of my neighbors here in Texas. We got quite a few from Tyler, Texas, Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Maryland, Ohio, Seattle has sunshine. So jealous. Portland does not today. We've got Kentucky, Washington. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for your feedback here in the Q&A, and thank you for using the Q&A as we fix the chat box. But we're going to go ahead and get started here. So thank you again for being here today. My name is Felicia Royce, and I am the Director of Alumni and Career Services here with ACHS. I am joined here today by Gina Schneps, our marketing manager. Gina is going to be working behind the scenes to make sure our technology is running. She's currently doing that right now smoothly, and to monitor the chat box as well. And I just thought it would be nice to share our mission and vision as people continue to filter in. So the American College of Healthcare Sciences mission is to lead the advancement of evidence-based integrative health and wellness education through experiential online learning and sustainable practices. Our vision is that in integrative health and wellness education is accessible to global communities, promoting sustainable and healthy futures for all. So I'm just going to go over a quick agenda before we introduce our panelists today, some general housekeeping. As you've noticed, lines have been muted. Gina and I are going to be fielding questions today through the chat box exclusively. Hopefully we'll get that up and running soon. Currently, you can use the Q&A until we fix the chat box. But don't be shy. This is a round robin style webinar. So we want this to be interactive. We want to hear your questions. We want to hear your comments. There are a lot of people attending this webinar today, which is super exciting. But to stay organized, if you see a question that resonates with your question, instead of typing that question again, feel free to use an emoji, a thumbs up, a heart. So that way it upvotes the question and brings it to the top of the list. And we know that you have a similar question. We're going to
also up and running, just so you know. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for fixing that. Awesome. So we're going to have time at the end for Q&A, and we're also going to, sprinkle some Q&A throughout the webinar as well. This webinar is going to be recorded and emailed. So, just so you know, anything that's in the chat that we don't get to, we will be sure to follow up with you. And you're going to hear from 3 unique perspectives today on building and growing a holistic business. Each one of our panelists is a graduate from at least one of our holistic health programs. And of course, there are a lot of factors that go into opening a business. And we will not likely have time to get into all of it within the hour that we have. But we do hope that you walk away with some guidance, some new ideas, and some new tools. We do ask that you refrain from asking our panelists any legal questions. Of course, if you have a question that's legal related or have any questions that don't get addressed today, I would be happy to set up a time to talk with you one-on-one after the webinar. So again, feel free to use that chat and keep their questions coming. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first panelist today. Our first panelist is going to be Amanda Winger. She graduated from ACHS with her Associate of Applied Science in Complementary Alternative Medicine. That program is now called the AAS in Integrative Health Sciences. But Amanda is the owner and operator of Wing Herbs Haven, and this is a link to her business website, so feel free to take a look. But Amanda, if you could give us a little more information about where you're located and just give us an overview of your business, that would be great.
Yes, ma'am. I live in Columbia, North Carolina. It is a small town close to the Outer Banks. I started my business when I was in school. I was making teas and salves, and my old boss would let me put a little basket at the register, and I was using the money I made from there to pay tuition. And quickly the town started realizing there was a lot more to offer, and they kind of forced me into having my own business before I was even ready.
Wow.
Yeah, it was scary, but it was very exciting, and it was the push I needed.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. Our second panelist today is Clara Rathke. She graduated from ACHS with her certificate in holistic nutrition consulting, as well as a Master of Science in Herbal Medicine. She is the co-owner and operator of Lamb Shop and Wellness Center. Here's a link to her business. And Clara, if you could just give us a little more information about your business, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so my story actually began about 20 years ago. And I was very ill as a kid, and my parents took me to many doctors and specialists, and unfortunately they had no answers. And so after a lot of trial and error, my parents thought, well, let's try something completely out of the box. Let's go to an herbalist. And that completely changed my life around. And I started like gaining healthy weight, started getting color back to my skin. And that just really got my mom interested in holistic medicine and herbs. And so she went back to school and learned herbal medicine along with being a holistic nutrition educator. And then as I grew up, that was just really a passion of mine and hoping that I could help others in a similar situation. And so that's why I pursued this path as well. And today we have a shop and wellness center located on our sheep farm. And we offer everything from like teas, tinctures, we have grass-fed meats, we have natural foods, organic produce, things like that. And then also in our wellness center, we have a group of independent practitioners that work together. And we have everything from massage therapy to nutrition, herbal medicine. We have thermography. We have different detoxing therapies. We have Reiki, just a whole variety of things.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing the background there too. And if you all have a chance to take a look at her website, the sheep are so cute, so adorable. Thank you so much for sharing, Clara. All right, and last but not least, our third panelist today is somebody that you might recognize. It's one of our faculty members, Margaret LaPierre. Margaret has a vast background in holistic health. In addition to being a licensed master esthetician and instructor, she did graduate with her certificate in aromatherapy as well as her diploma in holistic health practice. She has run a skincare clinic, and for many years, she and her husband had a herbal business where they created natural bath products. So welcome, Margaret. And if you could share a little bit more about your business story, that would be much appreciated.
Well, I like to tell people that how I ended up here is a fluke, but there are no flukes into what I've done. My background is similar to Clara. I had some health issues that were not resolved with traditional medicine, and my husband and I decided to go back to our basic roots. And from there, I started making bath and body products at home. We grew our own herbs. And someone planted a seed in my brain. Well, why don't you open an herbal business? Had no idea what to do, didn't have any intention of having an herbal business, but it kept knocking at my brain. And so once I decided to do this, it just kind of snowballed. And we ended up having a very successful herbal business where we marketed, I created all of my own formulas for 17 fragrances of herbal soaps, bug repellent, pet supplies. I had a line for men. We had a food line of gourmet teas, gourmet herbal vinegars, and things like that. And that was before the internet. And if you think it's challenging today, it was as challenging back then. And so when we decided to close our herbal business because it began to be too much for us, we decided I wanted to transfer all of what I had learned about product ingredients and the skin and aromatherapy to work with the public. Well, while I had my herbal business, I also went to ACHS again before the internet. But I transferred all that knowledge into my holistic skincare practice, where I worked with doctors, in all kinds of specialties. My passion is hormonal dysfunction and menopause, and dermatologic skin issues. And I'm now oncology trained, so I also work with a vast number of people with cancer.
Wow, incredible. So much experience. We look forward to hearing more about this and the questions here coming up. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so we're going to transition here to some Q&A with our expert panelists. And feel free, add your questions into the chat as we go here. But Margaret, since you just spoke, let's go ahead and start with you. What would you say were the most beneficial tools and resources, including any ACHS classes that you used when building your holistic business?
Well, I'll start with the ACHS classes first. When I had my herbal business, I just started the business. I just took a leap of faith and just did that. But I wanted to know more about herbs and aromatherapy, and I sought out the best school I could find. And the best school I came across was ACHS. So I learned I needed to know about herbal medicine and aromatherapy, and that elevated my product line to a higher level. And then for my skincare line, I decided to really, I did my herbal business on a wing and a prayer, and I really didn't know what I was doing. So I went for help with SCORE, which is the Services Corps of Retired Executives that is offered through the Small Business Administration. There, they introduced me with retired executives who helped me to really find where my real passion and my focus should be. They introduced me to accountants and lawyers. They helped me set up information on what insurance I need to protect not only my business, but myself. They helped me lay out my business plan. I didn't have a business plan when I opened my herbal business, but that going to SCORE was one of the best things I think I've ever done, because they offer a low-cost programs that will help you do that. And they offer some free programs. So if you have a chance to, and you don't know where to start, look at the Small Business Administration. That is an invaluable tool that every business owner, regardless of whether you've had years of experience in business or no experience, this is a great place to start.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I talk to students, alumni all the time about SCORE. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to pass the ball to you, Clara, if you would like to expand on this question. What tools and resources have you used when building your business?
Yeah, one of the resources that I would check out is your local Secretary of State. Here in Minnesota, there is a guide that says how to start a business in Minnesota, and then there's probably one in your state as well. And it's just a really simple step-by-step guide on how to write a business plan, choosing which business type is right for you, whether that's an LLC or a corporation, and then even how to register a business and making sure that you follow all the right procedures.
Wonderful. Valuable information. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Amanda, do you want to expand on some tools and resources you've used in the past?
Yes, my favorite classes, the ones I really took the most information from, was the herb classes, NAT, Aroma, which Miss Margaret was one of my teachers. She was amazing. And what I did with all my notes is I made my own materia medica. I have every herb that I use on a daily basis in there, how to use it. And I have my formulas, I have my recipes, I have quick references for what kind of deficiencies people may have, what can the terrains of people. And when I make a formula, I go back to my book, and that has been a #1 lifesaver. I also bought this book, which is Plant Business. It's the herbal business book, and it pretty much goes through every aspect of making your own herbal business, from the logo, from the laws, how to figure out your demographics, and I use that for a reference. And if you're doing anything herbal related, I recommend a book that goes in depth with the interactions between supplements, vitamins, prescriptions, because there's going to be a lot of people that come to you and be like, well, I'm just taking this. And some people may not realize that it could interact, and then that can fall on you. So between all the books, I've made my own herbal library that I go to on a daily basis, because even though I graduated, every day I give myself about 2 hours to learn something new. I'll forever be a student, whether I'm graduated in school, but herbal medicine's not something you can just and learn. There's always something new to learn.
Amanda, can you tell us the name of that book one more time so I can look it up and put a link in the
It
chat?
is Herbal Business by Jesse Wolf Hardin.
I actually have that book too, Amanda.
I love it. It's one of my favorite books.
Thank you so very much for sharing that. Very important. Gina, were there any questions in the chat that you wanted to pull out for this question?
So the book one, definitely I was going to pull out there, as I know that we wanted to link for that. But there was another question. I don't know if it's fully related, so I might save that for the Q&A if we want to move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's totally fine. We can go ahead and move on to the next question. And just so everyone knows, we are monitoring the chat box and we are seeing your questions in there. Okay, so the next question, and I'll throw this out to Clara to start with. What is one hurdle or challenge that you faced while building your holistic business?
Yeah, so I wanted to share a recent challenge that that we dealt with our business, and that was during COVID. And here in Minnesota, a lot of businesses had to shut down temporarily, and only essential businesses could stay open. And luckily for us, we were able to stay in business because we sold food products, and which made us essential. But my biggest takeaway from it is to be adaptable to the situation. For us, that was offering curbside pickup, having phone consultations instead of in person. And so just to not be afraid to just step outside of your comfort box sometimes. And when you notice that there's something missing or something that you could do differently, to not be afraid to expand what you're already doing, but at the same time, making sure you really stay with your core mission and values.
Such great advice. I know so many people were impacted by COVID. So thank you so much for sharing that. Margaret, do you want to expand on a hurdle or challenge that you faced in your many years of experience?
Well, when I had my herbal business, one of the hurdles was just getting my product into stores. So I ended up having to, sell my products mostly at herbal fairs and markets and craft shows. But once I got recognition, then people started to seek me out to have my product in their stores. So that was the biggest challenge. Again, that was before the internet, so we didn't have the networking system like we do today. But that was one of the biggest hurdles. In my skincare practice, it was when I went to interview with doctors about partnering with them to have holistic skincare treatments. As soon as they heard the word holistic, they said, no, thank you. So that was a big hurdle. However, I was fortunate enough to continue my education past my basic aesthetics training and went to Texas, Tiffany, to Texas. And I worked in a clinic in Texas in a hospital. And once I came back, that kind of fortified me with a little bit of armor to open my clinic. And then when I presented myself again to doctors, they were a little bit more receptive because I had some training in a hospital. And then I was able to partner with, I started off by working with a dermatologist. And when I worked with the dermatologist, I worked there solely to learn everything I could about opening a clinical practice. Once I did that and learned everything I could, all the regulations, all the equipment, everything about how a clinical practice should be run, then I stepped out and opened my own practice. And then I partnered with a plastic surgeon and another dermatologist.
Wow. So it sounds like really networking and
Exactly.
making connections with other practitioners in the field.
And as Amanda said, it's always a learning process. So the more you learn, the more they will take you seriously.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah. Amanda, what are your thoughts on this, on any hurdles or challenges you faced?
I felt, or I'm doing the same thing Miss Margaret did. I am putting myself in a lot of different vendor events, but honestly, my biggest hurdle was myself. When I was going through ACHS, I had in my mindset I was going to go find an apothecary and work there for a while and slowly build up the confidence to run my own business. I was so focused on the what ifs. I don't have a building. I don't have this. I can't do this yet. And slowly I realized that my dining room is my office, that I already am doing everything. So the whole perfect start of a business may not always happen the way it is, but it's accepting it and being excited and present every moment and realizing, hey, you're doing it already. Let go of the what ifs. The only what if that matters is what if you never just make that step. And it took a lot of my clients and customers like, hey, you're already doing this and you've made this much impact, to make me really open my eyes, like, well, let's do it farther then. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I agree with Laura. That gave me chills as well. Because I think self-confidence can be such a hurdle for so many people. You know, that's something I think a lot of people can resonate with. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. All right. Gina, any questions we can pull out here for this particular question?
So I've had a question, and I would consider this probably a challenge or a hurdle. How did you go about finding sponsorship investors to help with any funding on that side? I guess what type of resources, or where did you start with trying to find those type of that type of help?
And anyone can answer this, anyone who wants to chime in from the panel.
I was fortunate not to need funding. However, again, a good place to get some of those answers would be the Small Business Administration.
That's what I was going to say as well. And you could also check with your local chamber. They might be able to give you resources of what's available in your area.
I started making small sugar scrubs and little soaps, and all the money I made from those went right back into my business. And every month I'd take what I made from it and invest into my business. I've been a business for 3 years, and I just started paying myself because I wanted everything to go into the business to make sure I could do as much as I could.
Great. Thank you, all three of you, for answering that question. Any follow-up questions, feel free to keep them going in the chat as well. Okay, well, I think it's a good time to move on to the next question. Please share a tip on how to promote a new or existing business. What has worked for you? I think we've talked about this a little bit. But yeah, I'd love to hear, I guess let's start with Amanda. What's a tip that you would share on promoting or marketing your business?
Getting out there. I am on a lot of different Facebook pages. I live in a small community, so I have all the local businesses. I have fundraisers and everything like that. And if I notice they're looking for items to auction off, raffle, donations, I'll send a little small gift pack. Or if I notice one of my community members is sick, I'll make them a little get well care kit and I'll drop it off at their house. I got merchandise, like this is my hoodie. And when I go out to the store, I always wear my hoodie because I can go into the grocery store into a business trip. I find it when you're out there, especially if you're representing your business, more people are gonna be like, hey, I heard about you on the website. I actually was able to get into a store that way. I was looking around the store and she said, are you the Wing Curbs Haven person? I said, yes, ma'am. The next thing I know, she asked me to bring a box of my stuff and put it in her stores. So it's just getting out there and making sure people know who you are and know your face as much as they know your name.
That is so awesome. I love the idea of wearing your brand and having it be a conversation starter in the grocery store. I love that concept.
Oh, thank you. We're getting cups this week. I'm kind of excited about them because I love coffee and I love my herbal teas, and now I can drink it with my business logo on it. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and I love the idea of giving those out as gifts, and then, you know, that person has a conversation starter. It's an awesome way to market your business. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, Clara, what are your thoughts on a tip or information about promoting a business, your business?
Yeah, marketing is such an important part to owning a business, because if you can't market your own business, people aren't going to know what you have to offer, and you have to be so excited about it in order to get the word out. So a few of the things that I really suggest is to educate people in the area about what you have to offer. And that could be anything from writing small blog posts to having informational newsletters to doing short videos or reels on social media, or just any other social post. And really keeping the social media consistent is really important. And that could be whether it's once a week, twice a week, or every day. But it's really important to be consistent with your social media in order to be in front of their faces and see it, because if you're not, then they might forget about you. Today we're surrounded by so many things and so many ads, and unless you're really promoting yourself, you might get lost in there. So just really get out there and give them a piece of information while you're doing it, so that it gives you credibility as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I add just one thing? Clara is here today because Clara actually came to graduation in person, and I just happened to be talking to her, and that's how I learned about her incredible business. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. We need to figure out a way to showcase this to other students to show what can be done. So no matter where you're at or who you're talking to, always remember to just share your business, because you never know. I mean, what are we, 8 months out now? What it could lead to. There's opportunities everywhere in sharing your business. That's all I wanted to add.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, exactly. Clara, do you mind sharing what social media platforms you use and what, maybe if there's one that works really well for you?
Yeah, so I would really first look at what your target audience is going to be, and then that will help you determine on what platform you want to be on. For us in our business, it's a lot of middle-aged women, and so Facebook is a really great way for us to market, but then we are also on Instagram as well. We do have a YouTube channel, but we don't use it as much because that's not really our target audience. And so to figure out who you're trying to target, and then being on that platform that they're going to be on is really important.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for bringing up the target audience. I think that's definitely important. Wonderful. Okay, Miss Margaret, last but not least, what are your tips?
One tip that I like to use is my website. By creating my own website, by having that background and knowledge to do it, I'm able to keep my website fresh, and I can get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and tweak it if I need to, so it's always current. I have my blog connected to my website, so they don't have to go to another site to look at my blog. It's connected to my website. Another thing that I did was I wrote for an herbal magazine. Some of you may have heard of the Natural Awakenings magazine, and it's in different parts of the country. So locally, I wrote for the Natural Awakenings magazine in Virginia. And so I partnered with the owner of that franchise so that when I wrote for the magazine, she would send people my way who was looking for my type of business. And so that was a good working relationship that I had with her for many, many years. I also like to, for my products, I was a member of the Retail Merchants Association, with that, I also was on a committee so that when they had committees, just like with Amanda, and they needed prizes for an auction, I always gave a prize or prizes for different functions that they had. I participated in the cancer run, when they have different events in the city where they have a race for cancer or a race for autism. I, sent sponsor gifts to those organizations just to get my name and my face recognized so that people knew who I was. As soon as they heard Skin Therapy of Virginia, they knew who I was.
Incredible networking. And I love that magazine. Is that magazine does that still exist? Is that still in print?
It all depends on what area you're in. So I have noticed even in my area that it's not as widespread as it used to be. The owner changed. And I think when the owner changed, the readership went down. But the one that I worked with, we had a great relationship. And whenever I was at an herbal fair or wherever I was, I took copies of the magazine. So I promoted her, she promoted me. I also networked with one of the herbal stores in my area. And they had one of these programs where if you bought so much merchandise, you get so many points. So I made available that if you earn so many points, you could come to me and get a complimentary skincare consultation. So I work with a lot of herb stores in my area as well.
Very, very cool. Definitely highlighting the relationship, that you have with other businesses and how important that is to network. So thank you so much.
I have a question for Margaret as well. I know that you had said that you don't have a website anymore, correct? I just wanted to verify. We had a question about that earlier. So sure.
Margaret, did you hear Gina's question?
Yes, yes, I no longer have my website active right now because I did close my clinic a couple of years ago.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So I believe this is our last question before we go to live Q&A. But very curious, what is one piece of advice you would give to somebody that wants to open their own holistic business? And we can go ahead and start with Amanda with this question.
All right, my biggest piece of advice is to not rush and enjoy the chaos, enjoy the planning, and celebrate your first order or your first client. Don't always just focus on like making $1,000 in a month or having 100 clients. The whole purpose of doing your own herbal business or anything in the holistic field is to enjoy what you're doing and helping people around you. And it is so easy to get lost trying to save the world or making this huge impact that the small little things get unnoticed. Mm-hmm. I make sure every day I find a reason to celebrate or give myself a round of applause or enjoy what I'm doing. Because if I don't enjoy what I'm doing, how am I going to make something that helps somebody? Like, it's all about love in the end of the day. And if you don't love what you're doing, it will just carry on to them and you'll just blend in. You guys separate yourself by doing what you love.
Yeah. That is an impactful piece of advice. Thank you so much. Yeah. Clara, I'd love to hear from you. What is your piece of advice?
Yeah, so one of the things that I would advise is to find other local businesses in the area, whether that's another holistic business that has the same values, or even an unrelated business that also wants to be on the same page with some of those things. And you could either team up, do an event together, you could help promote each other's businesses, and also get out there and network, whether that's through a local chamber of commerce, going and speaking at different like events, or even there's a lot of like networking groups or like garden clubs that are always looking for speakers during their monthly meetings. And then also You can try going to different health fairs as well. There's quite a few in our area, and I'm sure there are in yours that you might not be aware of. Like our community college always has them. Some bigger industries have them as well. And so just getting out there and seeing what's available so you can help spread the word about what you already do.
Wonderful. I'm curious, because you are in a wellness center environment, maybe one piece of advice with how to network to actually, like, because I speak to a lot of students who have that goal to have a wellness center or kind of a wraparound service. How did you connect with some of those other providers?
Yeah, that's a great question. We advertise on social media, in our newsletter, and a lot of it's just word of mouth. Since prior to our wellness center, my mom had seen clients for many years. And so, you know, being known that that was a reliable source already and that it was an existing business did help us. So being able to provide that you are a reliable source, sharing your education background and what you have to offer. And a lot of it in our community is word of mouth as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that piece of wisdom. Hey, Margaret, what is your one piece of advice?
My one piece of advice is join organizations in your profession. For the herbal business, it's the International Herb Association or the American Herbalist Guild. For aromatherapy, it's AIA or NAHA. Get into those, join those organizations, but not only join the organizations, attend their conferences, get to meet some of the other therapists in the industries that have, you know, that are successful. Find out what they did, how did they get to where they are, and then join a committee. One of the best things I've ever done was get on a committee, and that taught me more about the industry that I was working in. So join organizations and just don't be a bystander and say, oh, I have a membership, but get on a committee and be active.
Yeah, that is amazing advice to offer. I definitely am in agreement with you on that. So, well, I think that is our last question that I have. I'm going to transition to kind of our live Q&A, where we're going to take some questions from our chat. And again, if you want to ask a specific panelist a question, you can address the panelist, or if you just have a question to throw out to the group, we'll just kind of, and again, we're going to try to get to as many questions as we can in the time that we have, but we are going to download the chat box questions, and I will be following up with these questions with you individually as well. So Gina, I don't know if you've been keeping a running list here, but where do you want to start?
So to kind of piggyback off of the promotional conversation, we've had a lot of questions about website resources, how to really get started, and where you started, whether you did it yourself or if you hired somebody. If each of you want to chime in and kind of how you got started. I know we had a lot of people asking.
I use Wix.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I should have called on one person probably. Amanda, if you want to start.
All right. I use Wix, and I'm not really good with the technology, and I found it pretty easy to use. It helps, and I'm able to spend about an hour a day uploading a different product, working on it, and really making it a representation of me and my business, and actually understand what I'm doing. I definitely recommend Wix. I can take payments and everything through one app versus 50 different apps and trying to build something myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've used Wix as well. That's what we designed our website from. But also, if you're looking for more of an online place to sell products, Shopify is a good source as well. They're very user friendly.
Now, piggyback on that, I use Wix myself. If you're good or have a good understanding of how to use Word, Wix will be a breeze. And I say go for it. They have great backgrounds and platforms and things that will help you to make your website what you want to show the public. I think it was one of the best programs out there, and it's very cost effective, very, very cost effective. And so you don't have to worry about paying someone to update your website. You can get up and do it at 2 o'clock in the morning and publish it and go back to bed.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and something that I offer as advice from time to time is that, you know, getting a holistic business off the ground does not have to take a lot of overhead, doesn't have to cost a lot of money. There are a lot of low cost ways and resources to help get you off the ground. Thank you for sharing that. Gina, do you want to read off another question for our panel?
Yeah, so we have another great one. Did any of you struggle with imposter syndrome? I think that's a really interesting question. So imposter syndrome meaning, did you ever feel like you were pretending, meaning you didn't know what you were doing and people might know? Trying to think of how else to describe it as. Just ever feeling any doubts in yourself and what you're doing? And I will have, let's have Margaret start off.
I never had any doubts. I had doubts about, being a jack of all trades. How am I going to rein all of my ideas into and focus? I said, but I never really had that problem. Once it got started, it was, this is what I'm supposed to do. It was like the universe was telling me, this is where I want you to go. And I never had that feeling, never.
Wonderful. Listening to that intuition. That's great. Clara, do you want to go next? Have you ever experienced any type of self-doubt?
I can understand completely how it can be daunting at first to, start, whether it's seeing clients or even just opening a retail space and to feel that confidence of what you have. But if you have that educational background, and you do your own research and you can really you got to start somewhere. And once you get started, you'll gain that confidence as time goes on. And so you might not have it to begin with, but it'll come over time.
That's wonderful advice. Amanda, how about you?
Yes, I've struggled with the self-doubt, and I realized that means that my heart's in the right place. If I wasn't worried about messing up or not giving a customer everything I have and all my compassion, would just make me somewhere else. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that I care so much. It's the fact that I want to do this far shows me I am on the right path. I am where I need to be. And it helps shake away the doubt and just shows me how much I truly am involved in caring in the relationship with the client and customer, just way more than just caring about the money.
That is such a good point. Such a good point. Thank you all for sharing that. It's much appreciated. I think we have time for about maybe 2 more questions, maybe 3. We'll see how it goes. But any other questions you see there, Gina, that would make sense?
I think this is a really great one. If your location has been flooded with holistic businesses, how can you make your business stand out from other well-established businesses? How did you compete with them?
I think that's a really good question. And I think what I would do is look at what's out there and find out what maybe is missing, even though that they might be flooded, but there's always going to be a missing aspect. Are there people already teaching classes, or, find your unfair advantage and really, go out there and tell your story. Just because it's already existing doesn't mean that there can't be more, or even partnering up with those businesses that already exist. And, maybe they know of an area that is missing, that they can't take on another thing.
And I'd like to piggyback on that, and Clara is right on that. And periodically, what you might want to do is what we call doing a SWOT analysis. So always look at your strengths. What have you got to offer that no one else is? What are your weaknesses where you need to hone your skills somewhere else? What are your opportunities? What are businesses not offering that you can fill that void? And then what are your threats? So periodically look at your business, look at your business plan, and do a SWOT analysis, and that will help keep you abreast of where to move your business as it grows.
I think that's very important. And I know we have a few panelists that are in maybe a more rural area. And I'm actually curious because I get this question a lot. On the other side of that, and we addressed this a little bit in the previous questions, but I'm curious if you had anything else to add. If you're in an area where holistic health isn't embraced, or maybe there's just not enough knowledge about holistic health, what's a way to really get into your community and spread the word about holistic health and market your business to folks who maybe have never heard of it?
Offer your to do a presentation or speaking engagement. The more you educate the public about what you do and how much you know and what holistic medicine is all about, they will begin to open up and embrace it more.
Yeah.
I live in a very small town, and when I started telling people that I was about to go back to school and they asked me what I was going to school for, and I said herbal medicine, 90% of the people I talked to laughed at me and was like, oh, whatever, the hocus pocus witchcraft. And I was like, okay. It took me about 1.5 years into school, having different products in my purse. I keep a little pouch, and anytime somebody has an ailment or anything, I'll pull something out and just educate them, let them try it out, show them about it. And within 1.5 years, the whole monologue and the conversations changed from haha, whatever, to can you please tell me more? And it's just every day in a small town where I'm from, going out there and talking about the herbs, talking about the medicine, and just making it loud, be louder than the doubt and the eye rolls. And I went from the crazy herb lady to, hey, she just graduated and she kind of knows what she's talking about. Maybe you should talk to her.
Yeah.
And it took a while.
Yeah. But really believing in what you're doing and really, believing in what you have to offer and relying on that belief.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better. It's just really about educating, going out and speaking to different groups, or even sharing like small videos on Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media you're using. Just really getting out there and sharing what you have to offer, because a lot of times they might be doubtful because they're unaware of what you have and what that all entails.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you all for addressing that. And I think we have time for maybe one more question. So Gina, if you want to kind of throw out the last question, that would be great.
So the one I had has actually been answered by Amanda. I know a lot of people had questions about, where to buy bulk herbs or oils and all of that. A shop or apothecary shop through ACHS is actually a great resource as well. So I did include that link in there. But I think to lend off of that is, how do you as a new business know who are credible vendors to work with outside of sourcing? How do you research? Are there any small tips that you can give to know what's real and what's not?
Amanda, do you want to start with that one, since you really focus on herbs?
I honestly look at the reviews and really look in between the lines on the websites. Do they tell you when was the harvest date? Where did you find it at? Where did the herb come from? the more information given, the less you wonder that they're trying to hide. I am blessed to have a lot of friends that are in the same field as I am, so I can constantly go ask them questions when I'm not quite sure. I personally love Frontier or Mountain Rose. I use Bulk Apothecary. I try to keep things as close as possible and just ask before I just jump.
Great. I like how you mentioned reading reviews and just making sure you're working with a credible source. Anyone
Yeah,
else have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I would just like to say, just asking the company questions is really important. And then for us, we have an herbal garden here on site. And so we grow a lot of the things ourselves. So we know exactly where it came from. You know, if wild crafting is important to you, or if being organic is important to you, finding out what their standards are and, you know, figuring out that baseline of what's important to you when you're finding a company that resonates with you.
Definitely. Margaret, do you have anything that you wanted to add before we wrap up here?
Sure, I can take it a step further and go into the aromatherapy end. When you're looking for an aromatherapy vendor, you want to make sure that the vendor is keeping good records of their essential oils. If they're keeping gas chromatograph, mass spectrometry readings of their essential oils, not just in general, but you want to make sure that the vendor you're working with has that kind of data on the quality of their essential oils, that what they currently have in stock. And maybe they can also show you data that maybe go back 5 years to how they have had different batches of essential oils and how they differ over the years. Whenever I'm looking for essential oils outside of ACHS, one of the first questions is, do you carry up-to-date GCMS data? Because if you don't, I'm not going to purchase essential oils from you. I want to know that I'm buying the best quality essential oils that I can.
Yes, I know speaking with you, that's very important to you, especially when you were running your business. So thank you for sharing that. Wow, this was so informative and so much fun. And I just want to, give a virtual round of applause to our expert panel for imparting their wisdom and being open and sharing their stories. I really, we all appreciate here in the community. And like I mentioned, we are definitely going to field questions after this webinar. I'm going to give you my contact information. But before we wrap up, I just wanted to go over a few more things here. So I just wanted to share, these are the programs that our panelists graduated from. So if you're inspired and you want to learn more about the programs, or, think about enrolling in the programs, we're definitely here to help you with that. This is our admissions contact information, and here's a link to the programs. These slides are also going to go out via email with the recording. So you're welcome to, take a look at your leisure at each one of the programs. And then something else I wanted to highlight are our micro credentials. These are an awesome way to build your portfolio. They're specialized courses that you can take on demand. So you can, start them whenever your schedule works. You can add this Credly badge to your LinkedIn or your resume. You do get the badge after you have completed the micro credential. We do have micro credentials in aromatherapy, herbal medicine, and nutrition. And these are a great way to build your skills at your own pace. So I wanted to share that information. Of course, let us know if you have any questions. All of this information is also on our website at learn.achs.edu. And then my role here as the Director of Alumni and Career Services is to provide resources, coaching, support, business planning resources. So I'm going to be putting my contact information and a link to my calendar in the chat box here in a minute. But stay connected. I love to hear stories. If you own a holistic business, I'd love to hear about it. I think networking is very important as well. So, feel free to reach out to me, especially if your question did not get answered today. I'd be happy to talk with you offline about that. So let me get you my contact information. That is the link to my calendar. You can schedule with me online, and here is my email address and my direct line as well. So I just wanted to say a big thank you again to our panelists, for everyone that attended and asked such amazing questions. I had so much fun today. I hope you did too. And we're all here for you on your wellness journey. So if there's anything any of us can do, please let us know. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, panelists. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. You have a great day.
Yeah, everyone have a wonderful day.